for those that are interested, what I'm trying to do is pass it forward. Take 50 years of gathering knowledge on edible, medicinal, and usable plants and teaching native plants at the university. I want it specifically to go to what we can use as mountaineers that our ancestors took for granted. They had to have it or they didn't survive. So let's go with a premise, because I'm not sure where to go, because I can go on with plants for hours and be absolutely useless to you. So let's decide where we want to go on this by your needs, not my pre-planned spiel. So first of all, let's go over the kinds of things that are highest priority to a mountaineer. If you're out there, what are your primary concerns? And why
White
would you,
women.
What's the higher?
White women.
You got that taken care of.
Okay.
Shut up.
I forget. Don't hit me.
Anyway,
To survive.
if you're okay, what are your order of survival? First of all, one of the things I do is talk to you about the edible plants.
Yeah.
Where is that on your hierarchy of needs?
Yeah, about third down.
Not too damn high. You can go
3 weeks.
You can go more than a week. You can actually go 21 days with no food at all. You're going to be hurting. You got to do a risk assessment on what is going to take your life now. Because so if you're not breathing, can you see what I mean by a hierarchy of needs?
Is this the garage sale? I was looking for the garage sale, sir. Do you have any Avon?
First of all, a mountaineer that suffered an injury, a mechanical injury, will die. What is here to help you take care of that? Okay, let's say like on my 3-day survival thing out of the AMM camp up on the Bitterroot. I went out under the idea that you had to do a survival, that the Blackfeet were after you. The first thing they're going to take is your scalp. You get the hell out of camp. And you can grab one thing in your entire camp. The clothes you're wearing and one thing. What do you grab? And tell me why you grab it.
Axe.
Who?
Axe. Or tomahawk. Axe or tomahawk.
That's what I took. I had several people set a rifle.
I'd take my knife.
Knife.
A knife is next best thing to an axe.
I can start fire with my knife.
I can start fire with a...
That's
with-
true. A
yeah.
good one.
You should have your knife with you
Well,
already.
I was wearing this.
Yes.
So
an
you're
axe
right.
would be
You got to look at what you're going to have on your person and grab that one thing. If it's already on you, you're smart.
Yeah.
You're already prepared.
Most of us carry a knife and a striker
Sure.
on us all the time.
I'm
Well-
taking Tom.
I forged this out of a Mill Bastard file 50 years ago. And it's worked pretty dang good. The walrus ivory I have here is all right. I made a striker on the end. Stupid design. Bitching to look at. It's cuter than hell. But striking a fire,
That's right. You get
by the way, you see an opening in 50-year-old brain tan?
You just want us to look at your junk.
That's how I got that. That's how I
Nasty
got
old
that
man.
mechanical injury.
That's how I got the mechanical injury and bled like a stuck hog. Well, all right, you got a mechanical injury. On that survival thing, I was gathering, I had to make a shelter. I didn't have anything. I had to make a debris shelter. To lay down with nothing to separate me from wet, soggy ground, I took pine boughs and made a bed. But to break the pine boughs so I could sleep without having crap in my back all night, I had to take the small branches and layer them without the big ones that are going to poke me all night. So I was gathering that, and I had my axe, this one. 90% of the time you can shave with my axe, and it's close.
Are you swinging or just scraping?
Either way.
Who's holding you
In
down?
either case, you can see it's missed its mark for a while.
And you're giving us advice and shit?
Yeah. So
All right.
this thing I had tucked under my arm from gathering it, and I was pulling the deal, and it went right across my thumb, right down the tendon. I'm bleeding like a stuck hog. So I thought, okay, put pressure on it. So I'm hold it and hold it and hold it, and then I let go and it just starts bleeding. What do you do? How do you stop that?
Better get your fire.
A what?
Better get your fire.
Well, I'm standing there with
A
what I
gusher.
got, making a fire with a hand that's bleeding.
Think dry. Pinch her off.
It might work. Okay, we had this discussion just the other day. Iceman, Otzi the Iceman, 5,500-year-old guy found in the Alps, only was carrying 2 things in his medicine pouch. One of them,
Lichen. Was it moss?
no, Achilles millefolium. Roman legionnaires had to carry it by contract. If they were caught without carrying it, they were severely punished. That was the plant that Otzi had. The other one was a stuff called Homies fomentaries. I don't know if any of you know of Jens Christensen. He's one of the only.
Weeds.
Swedish guy, yeah.
Yeah, he came to my house in '81 when he first came to the United States to go to nationals. Lived at my place for a couple days, and then we went to nationals. He potlatched me a plant I'd never seen before, and he called it Homies fomentaries, which is a botanical name. And I'll be going to hell if a guy in Europe is showing me stuff with a botanical name. That's what they use all over Europe. And this stuff is so freaking amazing that it's not already charred, but it'll catch a spark, be so hot. How do you extinguish a spark when in your tinder and stuff? What do you generally do?
Take away the air.
Take away the air.
Put it in a tin and
Smother it.
yeah. Does not work with Achilles or with Homies fomentaries. That stuff burns so hot, 10 minutes later you grab that tin and you'll blister your fingers. The damn stuff's still burning inside of an enclosed oxygen deprived environment.
Is it resin? Is there resin or
It sounds like
resin or gum?
Now the reason we're going this way, because now you can see how our conversation ends up going towards the specific needs in a prioritized way.
That's a shelf fungus of some sort.
This
right?
is called horsehoof
Horsehoof
fungus by a lot of people.
Horsehoof.
I got this off of a tree on Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska.
What kind of tree?
Locust.
No,
Aspen.
generally it goes on birch bark or birch tree.
Then that's chaga.
This is, oh, there you go. Back east, the boys know it as
See, in Kansas,
That's not the same
locust
stuff,
only
though.
grows on locust trees.
There you go. It is not species specific.
You've got it on something else? It only grows on honey locust at our place.
What's
But
that?
it's invaluable.
Horsehoof?
Between this hard surface, you take that off, and this spore area in between, there's a layer about that thick that looks like
Is it yellow?
creamy.
Creamish yellow?
Yeah, it looks like felt. That stuff is volatile.
Never
It
been
will
able to
catch-
start a fire with horsehoof, and I've tried 100,000 times and never got her to take, even charred.
Wow.
I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying that the stuff we get, that have you tried it?
No, I have not.
I've never. Have you?
I've tried it.
Chaga I've had take,
I've
I
had
have,
chaga
yeah,
take.
chaga.
but chaga is better for you as tea.
Well, so we don't
Because
take
it's a
too much
true
time, I'll
antioxidant.
dig it out for you and show it to you here in a bit. But so we keep going, I'll let you do some of that, of the stuff that I've got. But that is one of your best ways to make fire without fire. AMM standard is you got to make a flint and steel fire. Well, Jesus, mentally retarded gorilla or a Boy Scout can do that without even thinking. That's not a challenge. But the problem is, as a mountaineer, you got to have fire to make fire the way that's set up. You got to have fire to make the char to catch the spark. If you're caught in a situation where that's not doable, you better have another alternative. And there are a number of them out there, and we can go over that kind of thing. But what we were talking about is your first priority is you got an injury. You don't have to set a bone, but the most common one is a cut or an abrasion or something. And right under your feet, probably right under your ass right now, is a
Nobody
plant
look.
called Achilles millefolium. and it's growing profusely because of its being fed right now.
Yeah, a lot.
Pull one up, cause I want to see it.
Don't ask. I told you not. Don't mess
It's
with
covered
me.
in bullshit
Wind must
right
be
now.
coming your way.
I had pico beans last
Stay
night.
away from the light, Bill.
The one we're looking for now that the Legionnaires had to carry is Achilles millifolia. Milla meaning 1,000. Can you see? That's one leaf, but there are 1,000 little leaf
Then
things.
that's yarrow, common name yarrow.
Common
correct?
name yarrow.
Okay.
Way to go, brother.
There's less syllables. I can
How do you use it? Say what?
It's a poultice.
Yeah,
Sure,
I want
pass
to
it
see it.
around.
I can't find none of it.
You use it
don't
as a
give me that.
poultice,
Stand
correct?
up. I told you his butt grew.
Oh, well, hell, I got this
What's
stuff
this?
around me. I recognize this part of it. Is this part of it?
there 10 seconds ago.
You stay away from his magic ass.
So this is the flower of the yard.
That's the flower.
Mine don't look
I
anything
have-
like
I-
those.
And they use, and you'll see this as a decorative plant all over landscapes because it takes, I just picked this up under his butt right there. You're probably, if I look close enough, sitting on some too. It's all over here. That is a fabulous, one of the best medicinal plants and usable plants you can ever identify. Scent.
What is the range of yarrow?
It grows
Wall
nationwide.
to wall.
It does not grow in Texas.
Yeah, it does.
Nothing grows in Texas. What are you
I have
talking
never
about?
found it.
Well,
Yeah, but you didn't look.
I'll bet you
Well, nothing grows
my
in Texas
AMM
anyway.
card I can find it in Texas. Well, see, the Legionnaires carry it in the pocket. You know, and it was just because they got a cut. Now, I was telling you about that cut I got on my thumb and I couldn't blanch it. I couldn't stop it. I'd let go and start bleeding again. I found some yarrow, made a poultice out of it, clamped it on, held it for about 2 minutes, let go and pulled it off. Wasn't healed,
But it would bleed.
but there was no blood whatsoever.
I found that if you rub it between your thumb and your forefinger and make a poultice out of it, you can stick it on a cut and
Yeah.
it works.
The
really
root,
good.
however, is even more astringent and more powerful. You scrape the brown, dirty stuff off of it, make a little poultice, and I had that FEMA girl put that in between her lip, and about 5 minutes later she was going, and she couldn't feel her face. She had no pain.
Yeah.
So for 5 days on that hike, coming back down off of Blue Mountain out of Blanding, she had that. She got so miserable on the ride back down off of Blue Mountain, they took her straight to the dental office and extracted an impacted wisdom tooth. On the trail, she usually just picked up the leaves.
Oh, the yarrow. It
Yarrow
was
leaf.
the yarrow.
Yarrow's what she used, but the root is what she used
Oh.
to really take care of. The root's much more powerful, but it's harder to gather.
So it's a
But if you've got a
coagulant.
headache or you got some ailment or misery, anything you would use aspirin or stuff for, the yarrow leaf brewed into a tea is your go-to.
So I
And
grew
I'll
up-
guarantee you it's within line of sight here. That's one plant.
And I know.
If you've got a headache or you've got other kinds of things, there are probably 15 different varieties of river willow.
And I know.
Put that in
Inner
your
bark,
fire kit.
Cambrian layer, the slimy thing between the bark and the wood, that has
But then on the other hand,
3
you don't know
times
what-
the salicylic acid of manufactured
Great
aspirin.
It's a willow.
River, almost any willow. There's dozens of varieties.
Be it now.
Don't mistake the red osier dogwood for a willow. Some people call it red river willow, but it's not.
I gave him a bag.
And it has even more
Smells good.
Gary.
medicinal qualities than the willow.
Real
There's 2
different.
varieties. There's a willow right over here, a narrow leaf peach leaf willow, and Salix amygdaloides, which is the one that's right along the river over here. All of those work well. So we've covered some medicines, but the more of this stuff you put in your
Would you like some?
never lost, never without medicine bag, the more prepared you are as a mountaineer. So that's where I kind of, I didn't know whether we'd go this way or not. The other thing we can talk about is when taking care of our immediate injuries,
True tender.
the stuff that is life-threatening now. You can go in the Mojave Desert, over 100-degree temperatures during the day, 3 days with no water. But you better dang well have a way to make water, or you're going to perish a miserable death. So finding water is an issue. A mountaineer can find water 20 miles away because he knows the plants that can't exist without their roots deeply in a source of water. and we're under them right now. If you see cottonwoods like this,
There's water.
you got water.
Yeah, I was.
You might have to dig, and it's going to be deep. But look right here. Well, of course, if you spot milkweed or you spot cattails,
Cedar.
well, there's another plant. There's holy grail plants. If you had a list of plants, I better damn well know they're plants that have a multiplicity of uses. And if you know those plants, then you got a pretty good handle. One of them is not native to the United States, but in a way that's asinine because it was brought here to this country in the 1600s by the Puritans.
Plantain.
Nope, not
Mullen.
plantain.
Mullen.
Mullen.
Oh,
Mullen.
blanket mullen.
Mullen is not indigenous, but it's continent
You're
wide.
right, mullen is one hell of a plant, and that
Yeah.
threw me off.
It's a great plant to make a hand drill. It's a plant that, now, this is the other thing. They don't tell you on most of these charts and books the best time to harvest a plant, because a plant becomes much more palatable, tasty, and usable harvested at the right time. So if you see the yellow stalk, the yellow flowers on mullen, looks like a candle growing on a
It
fence
is
pole.
a candle.
Yeah, well, that's the other use. They used to call it miner's candle. You can light one piece of dried mullen and it'll stay lit if you're spelunking in a cave for more than 15 minutes.
And if you wax it,
Oh, shit.
it's a
That's cheap.
patio
That's cheap.
candle.
Well, the other thing is,
Robo's torch.
you guys ever heard of a guy named Louis Lasson? Writes a
Big
lot of stuff.
spoon?
He's got a big spoon.
Big spoon?
I don't know. Louis was at a winter camp at Badger's place in Vernon. And he was complaining that he had a horrible runny nose and coughing and misery. And I said, well, Louis, go get some mullen. Never heard of it. What is it? I said, well, it's got to be right around here. Badger, who owns the place, says, well, there's some right across the fence. So we went from here about to the other side of where those cattails are. Sure enough, mullen growing up all over, but it was all dead, just brown, rusty looking stuff. Cut that off, and I said, okay, Louis, just light that up. It's antithetical to our white way of thinking that breathing in smoke is going to do anything positive for your lungs.
Yeah.
This stuff will.
It's a great expectorant.
So Louis lit this thing up, and it's smoking and going away, and I said, waft it in and breathe it. And he comes back 15 minutes later and he says, God, Price, that shit really works. You know, okay, Louis. So if you've got a medicine, you've got an edible, those flowers picked early in the morning, late in the afternoon, the moisture and stuff's gone and they're not quite as palatable and tasty. Gather them early in the morning while the fresh dew, oh, they're quite tasty. Which is another thing you got to go into. If you're in a survival mode, I'll guarantee you, my students on day 5 or day 7 coming out of the wilderness were eating a lot of shit they wouldn't even think about eating on day 1. Because once your stomach's doing a tap dance on your backbone, your attitude takes a whole different turn. You know?
A good hunger, there is no hard bread.
Right.
No. You'll
When
chew
you
on
eat
some
shit.
stuff that you would have normally walked by or spit out. Makes a lot of difference. So you gotta consider that too.
Don't forget.
There's a big, huge difference between edible and palatable, folks. We spent thousands of years cultivating stuff to be palatable, not edible. You gotta change your mindset and know what you can eat.
Are you familiar with elephant ear?
Yeah.
Like a,
But it doesn't grow in my region, so I
yeah.
don't have a lot to do. Which is another thing. I am so grateful to you guys for being here because I'm out of my element here. A lot of the stuff is familiar, but there's stuff here I'm not familiar with. If I go back east, I'm in deep doo-doo. Because I can recognize some of the plants, but there's stuff you guys didn't mention that you use all the time. I wouldn't know it if it hit me in the face walking through the jungle.
That's like if in Texas, you know, we've got a plant called yopon.
Who?
Yopon,
I thought that was in Asia.
and it is the only plant that contains caffeine.
The black drink.
Huh.
And you take the leaves off of it and toast them, and you can make a really nice tea.
Awesome. See, there's one I got to add to my list for a different region.
The ephedra we found.
Ephedra?
Your Brigham.
Brigham tea. Call it Brigham tea or ephedra. She found some right over here. It's not in, now, in the desert,
Bitty.
around Utah in the Rocky Mountains, that damn stuff will grow taller than you are.
One of the plants.
And it is potent. They used to put ephedra. You could see it on the ingredients on these energy drinks. The feds have banned it
You know
because
what
it
is.
caused so many heart
in front of their
palpitations and
houses.
people getting heart attacks from drinking too much energy drink with ephedra. It's banned now, which is a cautionary tale. The time of day that you gather it, the amount of moisture the plant's had in growing, the same plant that you used a year ago or 6 months ago has a totally different efficacy and potency than it did back then. So you got to be judicious and know how to dose the stuff.
So it gives you energy? It gives
Oh
you
yeah,
energy?
it'll light you right up.
I knew it
Ephedrine
was
is what they use in methamphetamine.
Well,
It's speed.
what I was familiar with is, I don't know how well it works, but
Says
for kidney infection, urinary tract.
Yeah,
Bought my share of it.
Too much can.
I don't know if it cures it, but you don't have to worry about kidney stones. It'll pass.
There's a funny.
Let me go through a couple of plants that I think every mountaineer needs to know because they're the holy grail. If you know these few plants, pray they're in your region, you will have fire, you will have medicine, you will have
Cordage.
cordage. Thank you. What's your go-to? Who makes cordage?
Yucca.
Yucca is incredible. I've got some
Yucca's good stuff. Dog bane is good stuff.
dog bane, milkweed, yucca.
Stinging nettles. Bloody nettles.
Cedar bark makes good cordage.
Elm.
It makes
Some
cordage.
elms that do get-
But it's not strong. It's fugitive. It's
Willow.
willow. It's another soft one.
It'll work.
This stuff right here is the yucca.
Yucca.
Yucca is a holy grail. If it grows in your region, you've got food, you've got fire, you've got medicine,
Band-aids.
you've got cordage, and you've got soap. Matter of fact, the common name for most native tribes in the West
Soapweed.
for yucca is soapweed. I made a mistake when I was first teaching my college classes of not passing on something I desperately need to make sure you have. There is a Native American ethos about collecting and gathering. They carry it far beyond what I do. They will talk to the plant. They will ask permission and tell the plant exactly what they're going to do with it and how much they're going to take.
And they'll leave something. They will leave something there.
Well, that's the mistake I made with my first college class I took into the wilderness. We identified a bunch of plants and suddenly you got 20 college kids digging the shit out of everything they see. We went back the next year and there's none there. I had to end up saying, oh my God, you idiot, what a mistake. What you have to tell them is the Indian ethics is if you see it and it's a plant you've identified and you need, before you take that only plant, spot two more. You can
Take a
take
third.
one, leave two.
Take a third.
Take one, leave two. You will always have that resource. If you don't, you've just raped Mother Earth. Now that's a literal sense. Native Americans, Mother Earth is their literal mother. How many of you bit the teat of your mother?
I don't remember.
That's probably the last damn meal you ever got that way. So if you think of Mother Earth as your mother, your literal mother, then you're going to treat Mother Earth differently than you don't rape your mother. Is what I'm saying, right? So you don't abuse it,
Shouldn't.
take
Unless
it,
you're from
overuse
Arkansas.
it. This stuff, soaked up, it's drier than a popcorn fart right now. If I soak it and make cordage, I can make it so strong that there's not a man here that can break it. I don't care how you pull on it, it'll cut your hands before it'll break.
You can use it for bowstrings.
You can use it for bowstring, bow and drill. It's amazing, amazing plant. When I took my college kids out, this is all they could take. They could take a sleeping bag, they could take whatever they wanted. But for foraging, for food-wise, they took 1 cup of rice. They took 1 ounce of cooking oil to put in the rice to cook it. They took 1 packet of those little salt and pepper things from the diner. That's all you had for a week. Everything else came from what you learned in my class and what you could gather in the wilderness. Day 3, their stomach's doing a tap dance on their backbone, and the stuff that was not edible, they're now foraging and thinking tastes okay. Kind of interesting. Somebody was talking about, well, I'm hungry. Can you go fishing or whatever? Well, the cordage on this fishing thing was all made. I made it, twisted it up. I had some linen, so I added more to that.
What'd you make it out of?
Milkweed, this one. We don't have much still water here. You guys know what I mean by still water?
Flat water.
Flat water, not a running creek.
No move.
Anybody fish with
Cork, bobber,
strike indicators or bobbers?
quill.
I use
This is
quill.
the simplest thing that you can make. Lasts forever. You don't need to carry it, but you can make it. You guys know what elderberry is? Elderberry is a good one because it has a soft core. It makes a good hand drill. One of the best medicinal plants you can make or you can find. I'll go into a whole deal on that. So I took elderberry, it has a soft, pithy core, and I took a little bit of willow, stuck it through the core so that it just doesn't get soggy and useless. I just made pine pitch. One of them I sealed completely, the other one I just sealed where it would go in. And there's your sight bobber, just for fun.
Hey.
How heavy is the one with the pine pitch on it?
No, Larry. To Larry.
Where'd it go, Tom? Is it in my elbow?
Here, Larry, I gathered these in Texas this time of year.
Things really grow in Texas?
Yeah.
Those are pioneer plums, aren't they?
Yeah, they're plums.
Is that true, Ronnie?
Really? They're around here. Are they? Yeah.
Yeah, we grow
You don't
them.
have them in.
They're all over. The
Don't you see them
pioneers,
down
Mormon
there, sure
pioneers and stuff brought these in there.
What are they?
See, we
Sand
call them
plums.
hog plums.
Sandhill plums, Bob.
Oh, yeah.
See, you know what that is.
I do.
Hog plums, deer plums.
That also makes a nice torch if you got pine resin on there.
Yeah.
There's your fire. We got those in my yard. Makes great shrub.
Makes
You can
great-
find the
Jelly.
real.
jelly.
Oh shit. Lots
But
of
I
sugar.
had somebody here. Damn it! I've lost the face
Wasn't me.
right here.
What?
What?
Weren't you talking about going fishing?
Yeah, we're going fishing.
We're going fishing, but we're going to be smart.
Well, that's, he's
How many
out.
How many of you think we can get fish out of that creek today? Primitive.
None.
Probably.
Damn
He's challenging. Tell him
I've already went over there and looked.
Well, you're a Texan.
We don't have streams. We have hoof prints that we just drink out of.
That's right. I believe it. Probably catch edible fish out of what. But anyway, one of the things I always do, I play an old 5-string banjo. Took the 5th string out of my banjo, and I'll guarantee you, it's in here. Almost every trapper would take snare wire. When I was on my 3-day survival thing up on the Bitterroot, not the Bitterroot, the Wind River, the National AMM Rendezvous Site, one of the things that helped me sustain it, and I'm sorry, I've got you looking right in the sun the whole time. One of the things I did was took my banjo string out, cut a willow, found the string. It was, you could jump across most of it, but it came over a bank, washed back, and there was a nice hollow pond before it went out. Saw some fish idling in there. Went over and got about a 6-8 foot willow. Took my banjo string, hooked on the end, had a loop on the end, fed it in over its head, yanked it up and threw it up on the bank. My banjo string constricts, and sometimes if it's a heavy fish, stays constricted. If it's not a heavy fish, it lets up, so you can just pick it up, throw it over, lets it loose. This gentleman, you guys know what the term for a gentleman is for a mountain man?
Not him.
You had a banjo with you?
Huh?
You had a banjo with you?
No, just the string. But most mountaineers carried snare wire.
Thanks, Brad.
I have it in my kit.
The
A
stuff
lot
you
of
gave
people
me.
have it in their kit. He had some, and we twisted this up yesterday when we were talking about it. We're going to go cut a willow, and I'll bet you dang near $1 with a donut hole we have meat in camp tonight from that creek with this. And he's going to do it.
Well, I gave my snare wire. What did I give you?
You gave it to me.
Jim
So
some.
if you're
I
interested
give
in
some
that,
to George.
to make meat,
Yesterday.
you want to make meat from a primitive camp. I've caught dozens of them, winter, all times of year in the damnedest places. And it's, to me, the easiest way. Now, I belly tickled them, but that's a pain in the ass because you have to get in the water, and that isn't comfortable. When it's cold, and you're reaching up under the bank, and if you don't do it, don't know how to do it, you can't grab it right. You got to get by the gills or one hand on the head and one hand on the belly.
We
or the
call
damn
that
thing is gone.
noodling.
Yeah,
Just
we
a wiggle
noodle.
and they're slimy and they're gone.
You get turtle that way too.
Yeah.
They come up and you wait until you can.
You go from underneath because there's a medial line on fish. Everything from there above is sensitive to even your foot on the ground approaching the bank,
A linear line.
a linear line. Everything below that, they're used to rubbing on the bottom and foliage and stuff. They almost got no feeling at all. So as you're reaching under to grab them, you can feel their belly. If you've touched them before, you know they're always going to face upstream. They don't idle downstream.
They wait for their meal.
They're watching what's coming down and they're in hiding. But you reach up under the bank and you come from below and reach up, and once you touch a fish, you know when you got it. You touch a fish. Then you got to know whether you're touching the pectoral fins or up by the gill. If you grab it by one hand and you got a good grip, you're lucky. Most of the time they'll slither right out. If you get a hand by the gills or the head, you can block the front escape and grab it. You'll catch it almost every time. Don't have to worry about that. And we're going to test this today.
Okay, how does that work?
Well,
Besides make a loop, and you just
Yep.
hold your hand out. You got a fish? That's the fish. All I have to do is keep the line straight, and there's another trick that I'll show. You just drop that down in, and when you see it go over the fish, and the line disappears on the other side, now.
Yeah. We're gonna show you how that yarrow rope works with an
If I didn't yank
amputation.
too hard, I could have had quivering finger on the end of the. No.
If you get real hungry and you're on the prairie, you can do that with a prairie dog. I've done it with a rope and a string.
Really?
Loop it over the hole. When he sticks his head up, you yank her.
Well, I set a trigger and a snare with a
Spring pole?
spring trap.
Spring snare.
So when they go in, it triggers it, yanks it up. But you got to get them off the ground, or and you got to have stuff they won't chew through. So if you're doing natural cordage, what I build onto those traps is what's called a kill mechanism.
Yep.
So if you've set like a Paiute deadfall and you've got a stone that comes down, if you don't have a platform that's going to crush it, and that weight isn't 5 times the weight of the animal, you're going to lose the animal because their native habitat is digging. They get slapped down, they might get dizzy for a second, but they're gone. You put a flat stone and 5 times the weight, the damn thing's crushed. You go back and get a little bit of flattened meat that you made meat.
Meat's meat.
Fajita.
You know. So anyway,
Mouse jerky.
this gentleman and I,
Fritter.
later this afternoon, I'm going to show it on the other thing I learned the hard way is don't affix your leader to the end of the willow. Catch a fish and you pull up and the willow breaks, guess what goes down the river?
The tip.
Every part of your gear and the fish.
Come to the butt.
What you got to do is a simple little trick is you leave about this much of line tied to your willow, before you get out to the tip, tie that down. Then if the tip breaks off, the line's still attached to a stronger part and you don't lose the whole damn net.
You just made a fishing pole
Made a
with
good
no
fishing-
eyes.
Yeah. And it's a simple thing. Until you lose something, you don't think of that.
That ain't no shit. That's
You learn, it's easy for us old farts to learn the hard way, and I keep doing that. This is yucca.
Yep.
Gathered that on the way here. Not that it's going to be here in Taos. And Craig was telling me last year he can't find this in Texas.
Maxwell.
Oh, come on.
Craig?
What part
Oh,
of
well,
Texas
he said,
are you
that don't
from?
grow around my place.
Yes, he does. He gets it for us all the time to make cordage.
Okay.
That's why.
Anyway, there's damn near no place that I can't find yucca.
Yep. You can
And in
find
the
it.
Sonoran Desert, that damn stuff is big around as your forearm and stand taller than you. And it's called different things. Some people call it needle and thread, because if you go up to the spiny where you make the cordage, slice 2/3, 3/4 of the way through, pull back, you got the needle attached to the end and the cordage is already there. You can stitch up a wound. I mean, it's amazing stuff. One of your holy grail kind of thing. Medicine,
How far
food,
north? Excuse me.
cordage,
Fire starting.
fire starting,
So,
soap. Talking about holy grail, that's awesome stuff.
How far north does it grow, Larry?
Okay,
What's the range? What's the range on yucca, though? Well, how far
I'm sorry, what?
North? How far north does it grow?
Well, I went to the National Rendezvous up at 10 Sleep, or not 10 Sleep, about 4 years ago? You had to drive through 10 Sleep to get there?
Oh, up there and where Louis had his deal up there in.
I don't think, no, it wasn't the one Louis had. I was a high school principal in McCall, and you had to go up to the north end of the Panhandle.
Camion?
Huh?
Camion?
Camion.
Idaho?
And there was very little yucca up there, but as I was driving up the canyon, I saw small yucca, a real tiny plant, growing all up that canyon intensely. Coming here, I saw mile after mile after mile of
Greasewood.
mullen.
Yep.
You gotta also judge elevation, because down in the low country, that stuff is already dry on a popcorn fart. On the way up here, I still saw some that had the yellow flowers on them and haven't turned that rusty brown. That's because we're at elevation here. We're considerably higher, and that plant is later in the season. You know, when I was taking college classes at the U, we had an anthropologist that was talking about the hierarchy of the development of Native Americans in the United States. Blithering idiot. But he ranged all his hierarchy based on a white person's interpretation of what was elevated and civilized. He couldn't understand how he put low on the hierarchy the hunter-gatherers, the Utes, the Indians that migrated. They did that because they were following animals. The animals were following plants, and there was constant migration. What you would find here or find in Pagosa Springs, down lower, it's 3 weeks to a month later that you're going to find that same thing in the same condition here. So the white people thought, well, these guys are nomadic, traveling whatever, and didn't see the sense that they were following the plants that they knew at the elevation they'd be, because what's dead down there is now fresh and viable here. Not only that, the animals know it better than they do, or as good, and they're following it, and they're also finding the animal plants. My favorite plant, almost bar none, besides yucca, is elderberry. Okay, that's Sambucus coronea in this part of the region. Back east, it's Sambucus nigra. People, well, that's black elderberry. Don't eat the red elderberry. It's got a whole lot of cyanidins or cyanide. Make you sicker than a dog or could kill you. And that grows quite profusely up north of here, Montana, Wyoming, northern Idaho. Don't eat the red elderberry. The black elderberry is what grows in Europe and back east, And somebody wrote an article in Tomahawk and Long Rifle, said, well, the black elderberry is, that's not what is out here. He's not a botanist because the elderberry out here is a subspecies of black elderberry. Its botanical name is Sambucus nigra caerulea. The caerulea being a subspecies of black elderberry. Just a subspecies growing here instead of back east. They've done research, if you want to look it up without getting political, a PhD doctor in Israel treating with a plant that grows free. Why don't we have that available? Because the pharmaceuticals can't patent a native plant that grows everywhere that you can gather for free.
Is that,
They just ate
is
it?
that both the black and the red, or is this?
No,
Black elderberry.
black or the dark, it'll be blue with a dusty, almost a chalky, when it's perfect. They
Like
grow
little, like pomegranates, like yeah. And they hang.
Big cluster.
When they
Scientists
get
call it an
mature,
umbel.
They hang like they
the-
drape off of the tree.
the flower cluster grows up like this, almost spreads out like that,
And then drops like a willow.
and then as it gets ripe, it gets too heavy and
They'll
turns
hang
over like
just
this.
like so.
Like grapes.
Like
Yeah.
grapes.
Little berries in there.
Larry,
Yeah,
We got it in
how'd they
Kansas.
administer it?
I can't hear.
How did they administer it? Just
How'd they administer it?
Just
take a shot?
You can make shrub out of it.
Well, I know, elderberry
Well,
wine.
then why are you asking him?
I didn't want
What are you saying?
here's what I put my medicine in. It's a bottle, glass, impervious to, it's just great stuff to carry any kind of stuff that's acidic or medicine because it doesn't contaminate it in any way. I stitched it with the French hitching, old sailor stuff, with a jute. I didn't want it to rot, so I treated it with pine tar, pine pitch. Now I can soak this in the water and it'll last a century. The best part is, the hotter the day is, when I set this in the water for my canoe, it's a swamp cooler. This evaporates and the liquid in there is really, not just chilled, but cold. And it keeps it from deteriorating. So there's a multi-purposes, besides making this glass almost impervious to damage, just dunking in water, the hotter the day, I just dunk it in and put it in my canoe, and my medicine will stay months.
The extract is just the liquid cooked down.
All I do, well, I used to do it by putting it in a pot. The more leaves and branches and stuff you have, the more cyanus is in it, the bitter.
You can boil it down to a concentrate.
Just the berries.
Yes.
What I do is there's a modern thing. I make my medicine not in a primitive style. I make it for positive uses. So there's a thing called a Victorio juice steamer. I pull out every leaf and branch and stuff, so I have mostly just the berries on the tiniest stem. Put it in there and with that juicer, boil it or steam it just like you would grapes to make grape juice. The steam evaporated with the juice comes down, cools, and then I've got it, and I don't have any of the pith, I don't have any of the berries or any of the cyanuses in there.
It's like a still,
But
a
do-
distillery.
Yeah.
Yes.
But do not confuse pokeberry with
No.
Right.
I'm not familiar with either one. So
So
I
poke
grew up in the
doesn't.
panhandle.
So elderberry is a tree, or a
Oh,
bush.
it is
It's a
a,
shrub.
But pokeberry doesn't get.
No.
it's low to the ground.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
lower to the
it is.
ground.
Okay.
And you can eat poke when it's young.
I
but
probably
don't eat it when it
overdone
gets older.
the time that's here. I tried to take it in a direction that met the needs of you guys. I'm not teaching a 10-week college course where we get into too much detail. The thing is, know your region, know the resources, and what's available to you, and you'll be just fine. And then when I come to places like this, I'm going to go back east one of these days, if somebody holds a gun to my head.
What you've mentioned is basically what we use back where I'm from anyway, and I'm from central U.S. So we use dog bane, and we use yucca, and we use the only thing I've
Milkweed,
done, milkweed, and
nettle, stinging nettle.
Yeah, stinging
Nettle
nettle.
makes tremendous cordage. So, I hope this has been benefit to you. Thank you for inviting me.
Last year I hardly knew anybody. And
Live well.
Very good. Very good.